Question, Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To ask the Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs if it will make a statement on the negotiations of the transfer of sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius.
Minister.
As we and Mauritius have repeatedly said, including in joint statements on the 20th of December and on the 13th of January, both sides remain committed to concluding a deal on the future of the Chagos Archipelago, which protects the long-term effective operation of the UK-US base on Diego Garcia, and securing the long-term future of the base has and remains our primary objective throughout this process. And following technical talks, Mr. Speaker, between the UK and Mauritius last month, we have made very good progress towards this deal. Both sides have agreed that, given the importance of the base to the United States, as well as ourselves, it is right that the new US administration has the chance to consider the full agreement properly, which I discussed with the honourable gentleman in the debate yesterday in Westminster Hall. We are closely engaging with the administration, including, of course, sharing the full details of the agreement, Mr. Speaker, and it would not be appropriate or usual for me to give a running commentary on the detail of those discussions or the agreement. Parliament will have the opportunity, as I've said on a number of occasions, Mr. Speaker, to scrutinise the deal in the usual way, and following signature, the Government will bring forward a bill to enable implementation of the treaty. I must reiterate, Mr. Speaker, that the Government inherited a situation where the long-term future of the military base, which is vital to UK and US security, as the members opposite know, was under threat. The previous Government recognised this, Mr. Speaker, and that is why they began negotiations in 2022 and held 11 rounds of negotiations. This Government has secured a deal that protects the base for at least the next 99 years, which can be extended, and this means the UK and the US will be able to operate the base unchanged well into the next century. There will be clear commitments, Mr. Speaker, in the treaty for robust security arrangements, including preventing the presence of foreign security forces on the outer islands and ensuring the base can continue to operate securely and effectively. And we would only agree a deal that we are confident protects our national security and that of our allies.
Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the Mauritian Parliament had the opportunity yesterday to debate this at length. It seems perhaps you were rather more reluctant to be here today. Jonathan Powell, our National Security Advisor, has been doing the rounds in Washington, and he's been telling everybody, including the new Cabinet members, that this is necessary, that we have to give away the sovereignty of the Chagos Islands, and that in those circumstances, a negotiated 99-year lease is the best option. But of course, that's just not true, is it? It just isn't true at all. It doesn't stand. There is no legal basis on which we have to give away the sovereignty of the Chagos Islands. An advisory judgment from the ICC has no force of legal power whatsoever. Indeed, America disregard it so much, they're not even members of it. And I am pretty convinced, and by the way, they've been fairly busy with foreign policy, the Americans, just lately, so perhaps no wonder that Diego Garcia has not been high on their agenda. But when the Americans wake up to the fact that this has been done wholly unnecessarily, I wouldn't be surprised if we find ourselves, together with the European Union, in their tariff regime. Can the Minister confirm there is no binding legal basis for this transfer of sovereignty whatsoever?
Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I mean, the honourable gentleman goes over ground that he has gone over before and which I've answered in this House and indeed discussed in the debate yesterday. We've been very clear, as indeed the previous government was, that this base was not on a secure footing, and this has been done in full agreement with the US national security apparatus across the place. And he referred to the ICC. Of course, it was the ICJ which made that judgment. And we are very, very clear that that joint UK UK-US base on Diego Garcia plays a critical role in countering an array of threats to regional international security, and we will not scrimp on security. We will not scrimp on the security of that base, the solidity of the agreements around it, and ensuring that it is in operation well into the next century and that we're able to operate unimpeded as we do today. And that is exactly why the previous government recognised there was a problem and engaged in this process, and it's why we have brought that problem to a conclusion with a deal that protects our interests, protects the interests of the United States, and ensures the security of that base and its operation. As I've said, Mr. Speaker, once that treaty is signed, it will be put before the House for scrutiny, before ratification in the usual way. And Mr. Speaker, I do have to say that the chuntering from opposite, the opposition seems to have collective amnesia over this. They know fully the reasons behind this. Many of them were members of the previous government. You've heard what the Prime Minister just said in relation to the Leader of the Opposition's attacks. We are very clear this is about defending the UK's security, putting the base on a secure footing and securing that for the future for us and our allies.